A very fiery debate is now playing out at the Indiana State House. At issue, efforts by some lawmakers to protect gun dealers from getting sued for straw purchases.
13 Investigates first showed you how federal authorities are tracking down violators, the people putting guns into the hands of convicted felons. Tonight, investigative reporter Sandra Chapman has a look at a controversial bill that some say allows the legislature to overstep its bounds and take away victims' rights.
Sometimes felons get their hands on stolen weapons, like in the shooting of Gary police officer Jeffrey Westerfield. Court records show a gun purchased in 2013 at Gander Mountain in Castleton was stolen from the owner's truck as he worked at the Bent Tree Apartments on Michigan Road. Less than a year later, that gun turned up 150 miles away in Gary, in the hands of the Blount brothers. Carl Blount, who has a history of domestic violence, is now charged with the murder of Officer Westerfield. Investigators say Blount ambushed Westerfield and shot him as he sat in his police cruiser last July.
There's police officers all over the country that are being shot and killed by felons that have guns.
Sometimes felons walk into gun stores, pick out the gun they want in full view, and have friends sign and pay for it. That's called a straw purchase, and it's illegal for the buyer and for the gun store if the store turns a blind eye. That's what's alleged in a Marion County lawsuit filed by IMPD officer DWAYNE Dewey Runnels after he was shot by a felon. Just weeks ago, 13 Investigates showed you how the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms traced crime guns back to suppliers to help turn up the heat on violators. The gun in the Runnels case was traced back to Terrace Blackburn. Blackburn admits to making the straw purchase for Demetrius Martin, the convicted felon who opened fire on Runnels.
I just returned fire because I knew right then that when he shot me, he was trying to kill me, obviously.
Now Runnels is at the center of a landmark legal case against KS&E Sports, claiming KS&E was negligent and allowed Martin and Blackburn to complete the straw purchase.
Officer Runnels.
A Marion County court recently gave Runnels the go-ahead with his case, despite a state law that gives gun dealers immunity if laws are followed during a sale.
It's really based on what they knew, what they observed.
Senator Thomas.
Now some Indiana lawmakers are declaring an emergency and pushing new legislation to strengthen Indiana's immunity laws by providing potential protection to keep gun stores and manufacturers from getting sued. Senate Bill 98 takes aim at a lawsuit in Gary. Senator Jim Toms, the bill's sponsor, says the Gary lawsuit is keeping gun manufacturers from potentially setting up shop in Indiana. Critics say the proposal oversteps its bounds and puts the interest of the gun industry ahead of the courts and the basic rights of Hoosiers to take legal action.
We're talking about a jobs bill here. This is a multi-million-dollar industry. Whether you like guns or not is indifferent. We're talking about a jobs bill here, an economic boom to our state.
It's totally ridiculous.
Former Fort Wayne Mayor Paul HELMKE is also a past president of the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence in Washington, D.C., and says he understands what's at stake. Toms wants to make the statute retroactive in order to force the courts to dismiss the 1999 lawsuit filed by the city of Gary against 11 manufacturers and several retailers.
It's been laying there like a beached whale, and it's starting to stink.
The Gary lawsuit claims the retailers have become a public nuisance, having knowingly sold to illegal buyers in straw purchases. It goes on to say the manufacturers also know of the illegal retail sales and have the ability to change the system to prevent it, but have intentionally failed to do so. Tom says Senate Bill 98 will do away with the 16-year-old lawsuit. Karen Freeman Wilson is the mayor of Gary.
To think that they would look at something that is already pending, when you balance that against the bloodshed and the violence that is actually occurring.
It just doesn't make sense to me. We've got concerns with crime across our state. One of the things we have to do is make it harder for dangerous people to get guns.
HELMKE, an attorney, now teaches civics and policy at Indiana University and believes immunity for the gun industry is a bad idea.
To say that this industry is above the law, I think is wrong, and it sends the wrong message about our state and about our system of justice in this state.
I think the practice of holding somebody else responsible for the corrupt actions of other people is a horrible idea and a horrible policy.
I'm a mother of 5 children, and I really want to keep bad guns off the streets. I want to keep bad gun sellers, crime gun sellers. I want to keep their businesses shuttered. I urge you to oppose SB 98.
Some opposing the legislation are concerned about the timing of the proposal.
This particular legislation appears to be targeted towards pending cases.
Not just in Gary, but in Marion County, where the Runnels case against KS&E could set a precedent.
Officer Reynolds deserves his day in court.
Attorneys for KS&E are now asking the Indiana Court of Appeals to overturn the Marion County decision, claiming the gun store has immunity.
Dead center bullseye, look great. This really isn't the NRA coming in here and stomping its boots.
Gun safety expert Guy Relford says he's concerned about guns in the wrong hands too. But as an attorney and member of the NRA, questions where to draw the line when it comes to holding gun stores accountable for straw purchases. He's worried Indiana could create a dangerous precedent.
If a retailer or a manufacturer follows the law and somebody in between commits a crime, let's hold the person who committed the crime responsible.
Most gun dealers follow the law, but if we allow a few rotten gun dealers to get away with basically supplying guns to the gangs, supplying guns to felons, supplying guns to dealers, and then getting the protection of the Indiana legislature, all of us should be angry that that's happening.
Senator Toms argues gun sellers who don't follow the rules can be legally addressed by federal law. Now, the enhanced immunity law aimed at the Gary lawsuit passed out of the Senate with huge Republican support. The bill now heads to the House of Representatives.
Now, Sandra, if this bill passes this session and is retroactive, how will it impact the Runnels case?
Andrea, that's a very good question. In fact, just a day ago, the Indiana Court of Appeals accepted jurisdiction on the Runnels case. That court will now decide whether or not to uphold the Marion County Court's decision to allow the lawsuit against KS&E to proceed. Now, if the appeals court finds Runnels has special exceptions, his case won't be impacted. If the court sides with KS&E, the case could be subject to Indiana's immunity bill. And of course, we'll keep you posted on all of these developments as this story just continues to grow.
We know you're going to stay on top of it.
That's right.
Sandra, thank you.